Hello, lovelies. All right, stalkers and supporters and everyone in between. Um, Sometimes both. And anyway, um, so on Misty and everything, yeah, she was kind of sent to menace me. Like the more I think about it, she's been very disrespectful on numerous occasions. And yeah, but still, I have a bag of hers to return, and sorry, you still have a hard time leaving people's places when you're asked to leave, and then things get weird. Um, and then sometimes people don't want to involve the cops, but anyway, um, still, she was sent my way to menace me under a bunch of false pretexts, or maybe, she's a willing participant in the psychological warfare bullshit. But I really think they just kind of fool people and they get people in line and they have to say whatever they have to say and do whatever they have to do to get people like that. So as my boundaries, I will pick up on it right away. And there's a lot of stuff I wouldn't put up with now. Um, if she decides to even be in my life, I'm just going to show up to the court date, and I have a couple notes for her. Mainly, I'm sorry, and I was possessed, and here's your bag back, where I'm putting the notes. And, that's about it. I'm going to ask her, if you want me to stick around, for the court proceedings. But, she's having a fight for her daughter, and maybe she's, like, done, being used. She was kind of demonic and everything, but so was I. And so are a lot of other people without even realizing it. You brought down to a really low vibration. And maybe that's what that was. Maybe not. Um, Again, there's stuff that I wouldn't put up with that I did put up with in the past. And I'll pick up on that much sooner. Um, but if she decides she wants to raise her vibration, that seems like an interesting person, that I want to maybe try to make contact with, and a lot of people, in my early years at least, when I was younger, made a lot of efforts to try to be in my life. Now that could very well be because this, you know, targeted individual gang stalking stuff that has occurred my whole life, because people want the money, but maybe they're also a friend, and maybe both. They wanted the money and they were my friend. But not, I can't say everyone was, but maybe some of them were. All right, and so yeah, I think she's just at a really low vibration, and if she wants to help raise her vibration, I wouldn't mind doing that if she wasn't, um, disrespectful at the time she was, like in my past. I mean, we have known each other for 9 years, although 9 years of menacing me also, knowingly or unknowingly, is the thing. They could just like program people and shit. So I don't really know the actual score unless I talk to her and feel the vibes and see if what she says is honest, or if I'm getting a bad vibe. But I mean, look, you know, um, she just is a very interesting person, and I'm sorry I was so asleep and fucking kind of demonic too when we were like when we knew each other. Just yeah, it was Roofy possessed, MK Ultra, Project Monarch, bunch of horrible shit. That I can't even remember. But I could figure it out with the trauma responses and the weird. I wake up during some of my roofie sessions, like I do for my surgeries. So yeah, I'm just going to try to return her bag to her and say sorry, and get going or stick around. I don't know. I do have a nice thing to say too with her. And, it might pertain to the case if anyone is able to ask me a question. And since I don't really know that much about her, I can't really say that much. But well, what I can say, is I was at this trap house, and I invited her, my friend, by, and then there was some douchebag that left his fucking baby with us, and he's like, "Look, I'm just going to be like 20 minutes, a half hour," and then like over 3 days later, the dude shows up. And the person that was taking care of that child for those 3 days was, my friend or, handler, menacer, or whatever, Misty, was looking after the kid. And she was doped out. No, she was not giving the kid dope, I'm very sure, but she was all spun out and everything. But I mean, she might have asked me for some help with some like formula or something. I don't know, like some money for it. I don't know. It was a really long time ago. And yeah, and that's what I would have to say is like even when she was at her worst, she was still like taking care of the kid. So like you may say that argument, and in most cases it's probably true, but I can't say in 100% of cases. There was a lot of fucking trashy fucking meth heads out there. I don't think they're all trashy. I don't think. I mean, Misty has been trashed like I've been trashed. Although I think she's gotten hit a little harder than I have. And she's deep down inside. Like, I was always wondering if there was an act. When I knew her, I'm like, man, there's like times you're like really nice and authentic with me, and then there's times where it's like you're acting, and then you're just intentionally being like, a bitch or disrespectful. So yeah, it's like, anyway. And then I later figured out, I'm like, oh, that's what that was about. Whatever, I have the right to set the record straight. People molesting me with their fucking children into my adulthood, I gotta let people know. I gotta let people know about this. I'm like, man, I wonder what you were told. Was it by some law enforcement as well, perhaps? Because they facilitate a lot of that, but then only like a quarter or a third of them are in on it. So then the other ones think they're like legit, and how dare the other ones, and it's just this weird cycle. Yeah. So anyway. So yeah, I have the right to talk about these things, and people like fucking diddling me with their fucking children, and then people getting upset like because I talk about it. It's like, oh my god, like your upsetness is really telling, that I'm on the right track. Like, um, yeah. So I was going to just try to drop off the bag to Misty and be like, "Look, sorry, I was possessed and shit. It was really fucked up. I was like a roofie child when it happened, but I did wake up during part of it before my friend punched me in the face, and that's the only thing I remember. And then I never felt the same after that, and so that has been like my whole life, or most of it, right? And then I have a bunch of trained bad habits into me and shit, but I'm still doing kind of better than she is, I think, and she asked me a long time ago, and I can't get it out of my head. She's like, how do I live, Chris? And it's like, man, now I know better how to live and whatnot, and it especially starts with your diet, which I don't have the best diet, but it's definitely not the worst, and it's definitely way improved, and I keep on making improvements. Like just a few months ago, I was like drinking coffee, but now the only thing I'm really drinking is like tea. Although this is not a see-through cup, and this used to be my coffee cup, but now I'm mainly doing tea and honey, and instead of coffee and refined sugar. I pretty much I don't even buy a thing of refined sugar like anymore. I used to buy like one once a month, and I was on this cycle like once a month I need it, but now I don't need it. And I'm always making improvements on the diet, eating less. I'm trying to get down to one meal a day, but dinner and second dinner seems to be where I'm at for the past 7.5 months since I've been trying, to get down to one meal. Um, isn't the worst, isn't the best. I have improvements to make. I have a hard time unplugging from social media, which Misty found very annoying of me. And I kind of like agreeing with her. I'm like, man, like I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot, and there's a lot of nonsense that I don't even need to watch it, but I do because I don't know anything else. And I could use some help with that, but Misty always wanted to go out and whatnot, but meet strangers, and strangers always want to do weird things like to me, like because whatever fucking lies are spreading through the community and the policers and all this targeting person program shit, spiritual warfare that's tied into the psychological warfare nonsense. It's because I want to fucking whip the shit out of the bankers with a whip of thorns, and so they have these systems already set up to target us as children. Try to recruit us is what it felt like. But then they could pivot and be like, no, we were just like, like we weren't trying to like offer you, our fucking underage daughters, Chris. What are you talking about? No, we were just trying to like community protect and everything, and that's why we have to dress our children like sluts and fucking have themselves feel themselves up around you for the protection of others. It's like it's insane the shit that they fucking but it's really for the anti-Jesus network that they got going on. It's very anti-Jesus, everything about it. So and they can't just be like, yeah, we got this anti-Jesus network. They got to be like, look, we're like protecting others and they're blah blah doo. And then you've just been like harassing me ever since I was a fucking toddler, like straight up. But they need to make it seem like it's not that. So, doobly-doo, this lie here, this lie here, these rumors spread there. You molested me with your children, and then dressing them up like sluts. That, of course, was me. That wasn't anyone else. Like, like what? So, yeah. And I'm pretty much over it though too, so I understand the NPCs or whatever programs come by every now and then, like, yeah, nice mask, Chris, nice hoodie, Chris, whatever. All right, I guess if that's going to be your fucking, you're going to get pestered like that in your hell, I guess, right? So someone's going to be having the last laugh, and it ain't going to be you. All right, because I'm the greeter in hell, and that doesn't mean that I join everybody in hell. I think there's that debate whether I'm 2 steps outside of hell or 2 steps inside of hell, and I would say that I'm 2 steps outside of hell, because I'm greeting you into hell. So there. So as the greeter into hell, is some people could be upset about that. So that's another reason why they would do these things. Targeting me and my family since I was a toddler and shit. Like, holy shit. Since I was like in the womb, because I was prematurely born. So they were like fucking stressing the shit out of my mom to make her prematurely birth me and shit. Yeah, it's like really, weird occult stuff. Hasn't all been bad, but it hasn't all been good. And not to dwell on anything in the past, but I have to talk about it. So, because it's my part of disclosure. Not only the weird sexual abuse and stuff, and Michael Jacksoning me, is what I called it before I, like, learned, like, oh yeah, you're like molesting me with your children and shit. That's a level of Michael Jackson I didn't even fucking realize when I started using I got Michael Jacksoned. But yeah, anyway, the point of this video is just like Misty. And Misty, yeah, she very well, you could have been some menacing handler of mine. And she'd let her act slip every now and then, and I wondered why. And now I know. And I mean, I know enough, at least, just to say. And I just want to be like, yeah, sorry, and I was possessed and shit, and people kind of rape me with their children, and here's your bag back. Sorry, I lied about that. I'm not able to do all these sorts of things to many in my past. So I am able to do it with her though. So, she's a nice gal, and well, I mean, I'll leave it to her if she wants to try to reconnect. If I see her at court that one day, maybe the occult will just get her to fucking not show up again. Whatever. That sounds like it's going to hurt her, but whatever stupid rules. The fucking cult members. This is why I don't want to join any cult. Oh my god, the stupid shit that you fucking do. Stupid shit. I mean, you do some pretty awesome stuff too, but there's a lot of stupid shit too, and that stupid shit is like fucking like major turnoff. All right, I'm just saying, a lot of weird stupid shit. Um, but anyway, so if she wants to get in my life and everything, that's that'll be on her. If she's going to choose to disrespect me again, then I'll cut her off like I do others. You know, not that everyone that I cut off has been super disrespectful. You caught me like a lot of them caught me well when I was like possessed and everything, so it wasn't ever going to work anyway. Because that was the whole point of the possession, right? Because I'm more powerful with someone than without someone, but I need to watch it with the right someone and not the wrong someone. And there's a lot of wrong someones out there, and I could at a point everyone could look alike, at a certain state of mind and point and all this, everyone could look alike, and I'm like, fuck all ya. As a major protection until I fucking, am ready to let someone in. And that's just that. And yeah, so I get Misty was very demonic and whatnot, and if she wanted to be a little less demonic or a lot less demonic, I'll be willing to help her out and everything with that. So yeah, it sounds like she could use a little help, and I'd really like to help her, in the honest, authentic way that I could. Be like, yeah, I knew this chick, and like 10 years ago, like I was at this trap house, and someone left their fucking baby there, and I even have the news article about it, and she was the only one taking care of the kid, and she was, doped out. So, um, So yeah, I don't feel right about having her child taken away because these targeted person programs. Someone targeted her with this. Oh, you don't want to use like the dare, the reverse psychology. They get the cops' kids in school to talk about how amazing the orgasms are. So the cops never really directly said it. It was just their children that said that shit to your children. Just like they fucking like molest me with underage children into my adulthood. It's like, but oh, they didn't put it in their police reports. Oh wow, imagine that. So and they get their John that was hooked on meth to meet up with her and get her hooked on meth, and then she could spread it to someone else, and yeah, like she tried with me multiple times and failed. So yeah, if she want like the thing about the meth and all that shit is even statements by Alex says it. It's the drugs are a major mind control, and that meth is a major mind control. So it's like, it might make you feel good and everything, but it's just better without it because you're totally being mind controlled and picked on by these entities and artificial ESP technologies. You know, and it's just better to just not do that and change your diet and be there for your kid. And I could sort of help her if she wasn't just trying to menace me and be demonic. So that I won't tolerate anymore, and we will see. And we'll just see. I'm just really planning on returning the bag, trying to settle, get the record straight, and be like, sorry, I was like possessed, and you're acting kind of demonic to me too, and bringing out the demon in me that people attached to me when I was a child, or demon or demons, I don't even know, but yeah, I see you're still having a hard time leaving when you're asked, but I still feel bad about removing you from my apartment physically, even if I asked you for many hours to do that. It was a situation created by the community in the first place. The community that would just like intentionally get her doped out and then send her my way multiple times, probably like 100 times. Like I dealt with this chick for like a decade. So and she thought she was doing good because, like, hey, like Chris deserves it because we do weird things with our children around him, and then sometimes he acts awkward because we make it so awkward, but then we just like, like it's okay when we do it and everything, but we're like trying to recruit him, but then we could like pivot like, no, we're not doing that. It's just a bunch of stupid games. It's just a bunch of stupid games, and I don't subscribe to them. So no, 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 no. And yeah, I have the right to try to straighten the record, and yeah, I guess make her not show up to her kid's court if that's what the cult feels like. I'm still gonna show up and try to return her back to her, and that's just that. Bye.